Lauren Boyman is the Chief Marketing Officer for KPMG US, a Big Four professional services firm providing audit, tax, and advisory services to large multinational companies. She's responsible for leading the B2B marketing function, transformation across KPMG's brand and demand generation programs, including leveraging newly selected and implemented marketing technologies. She's been responsible for measurable brand perception growth, improving sales marketing partnership, and driving business growth through challenging markets. Lauren was with Morgan Stanley for 12 years and held various roles within marketing, strategy, and digital, including CMO of Morgan Stanley's wealth management division. Lauren previously worked at Merrill Lynch in marketing and at Colgate in brand management. She started her career as a consultant at McKinsey & Company. Lauren served on the Rising Leaders Council in New York Cares to develop New York Cares Family Division, a unique way for parents to experience volunteering and pass along the values of community to their children. She has a BS in economics from University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School and an MBA from Harvard Business School. Thank you for your patience. Welcome.
Thanks for acknowledging the cringiness of you reading that while I listen.
It's never easy for most guests. You did great. Thank you. All right, so let's jump right into it. For those who have never heard of KPMG, can you share with us what does it do, who are its customers, and what problem is it that you're solving for them?
Yeah, and before I answer that, I just wanted to say a quick hello to everyone. I love to see faces and those that are on video. Definitely makes it more personal. And Alejandro reached out truly with a cold email, and we get lots of emails from vendors or others, and I don't know what it was about this. I thought, wow, it would be really cool to actually speak to this group of individuals. Maybe it's on a long lost desire of mine to be a tech founder, and like my career path just didn't take me in that direction. But you guys are really an interesting bunch, so I'm happy to share whatever lessons I've learned from the big enterprise corporate world of marketing with you all. So
awesome.
to answer your question, KPMG is not a radio station. We are a professional services firm that, like you said, offers auditing, tax advisory, as well as consulting services. And it's really hard to sum up what the firm does because we do so many different things. When I joined KPMG, which was in January of 2020, I came from, like you said, Morgan Stanley, where I thought I was in a big, large, complex, matrixed global organization. And I thought, oh, okay, it'll be an easy, transition. And I came to KPMG and it was like going from 2D to 4D. Like wow. The amount of services and levels of expertise that the people have at KPMG is pretty mind blowing. And when you think about it from a marketing perspective, it's not like we have just one buyer to sell to. We have almost every single buyer in a corporation that we have services and solutions that are appropriate for. So we've got campaigns that target our kind of core buyer, the bread and butter for our services, are obviously like the board and the audit committee of the board for audit services. But then our other main buyers are CFOs for a lot of our finance transformation services or our tax services. But there's so many different roles within finance, like the controllers, and then finance technology. So there's, technologists that sit within each of those functions that we sell to. So a CIO, a CTO, a chief digital officer, whatever name companies go by. We also, sell to CHROs because we have human capital advisory consultants, and we have what we call a customer advisory practice. So we sell to chief revenue or chief marketing officers. So we have a tremendous breadth of expertise across lots of different solutions that make every day very exciting here.
Well, this is perfect for everyone that's listening that has more than one product or an array of potential customers from different industries. Feel free in the chat also to, especially directed at Deborah here, my colleague, the one that makes all of this possible. Make sure to send those questions to Deborah, and for the Q&A section, we'll revert to it if it hasn't been covered yet throughout our conversation. So Lauren, you mentioned all these products and all these different customers, right? Like services for all these different potential customers. When you walk into this role, are there steps, are there questions you ask yourself every time you're joining this new leadership position? Is there a certain playbook that you go by to make sure that you're kind of setting yourself up for success, to figure out what needs to be done and how to even go about it?
If there was a playbook, I would love to have had it. So when I joined KPMG, the firm was just at the beginning stages of a marketing transformation, and just sort of defining what that meant and unpacking what the group that I moved into thought it meant. The group was called Clients and Markets, right? The organization has since evolved, and marketing is now elevated and part of a organization called Growth and Strategy, which I love, because we are truly connected to the strategy of the firm. So there's a chief strategy officer that sits in that growth and strategy, and also manages all of the long-term investment cases and just managing the investments over time. And then so there's also
and are these colleagues that, for instance, the strategy, are these colleagues that you're spending a lot of time with, trying to figure out what the outlook for the brand, for the marketing would look like, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, I spent a lot of time, and just was on a call this morning with our chief strategy officer, and we're in an interesting conversation about how we measure the impact that our strategic investments are having on our brand. So yeah, we coordinate a lot with them, and what I rely on that group most for is direction on what the business strategy is and where our marketing should be most focused and applied, because that is the biggest challenge when you have such a large organization and so many different internal stakeholders and clients. You have lots of people who want your team's time, and lots of people who want allocation of the dollars. And so half of my job is saying no to people, and really identifying what are the areas that we need to spend marketing investment and time and people resources on. So
how do you prioritize that? Like, how do you figure out what is what is the right direction? Are there certain questions that you're always find yourself asking, whether it's the strategist or whether it's internally?
Yeah, well, from a firm strategy perspective, there's a lot of work that has been done, but is just always underway, about the overall marketplace and where growth drivers are, and our overall portfolio of solutions, and what are the areas that we need to be in, because they're our base solutions and we're relied on those and known for those in the market, and where are areas that we, like any business, want to invest in and become better known for and broaden our brand perception for. From a marketing perspective, what I try and do is align the campaigns that we have, the investments and the dollars for marketing budget to those areas, so that we're, again, prioritizing and being really focused about where we spend our time and our resources, but also that there's some sort of self-serve or campaign portal access for people and partners who want to leverage marketing resources, but aren't necessarily, in that group of solutions that, that get that kind of support.
It's been a couple years now, right? That you've been with KPMG.
It has. I have been here since January of 2020. So I joined
January 2020.
2 months before the pandemic, which was kind of crazy.
What a way! What an introduction to a new institution and market. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was crazy, although it did. I joined in January. Obviously, things shut down in March. So I had 2 months to get to know the team. And my team is dispersed across the country, which was something that was new for me because at Morgan Stanley, while we had lots of offices, they were mostly all in the New York, metro area. And so I could hop between offices or bring the whole team together on a, monthly or quarterly basis if I needed. Here, there's, hundreds of marketers that sit all over the country. And so it really is much more about, digital communications and virtual. So I actually think that the pandemic helped to make that more normal, and make that just more, all more effective in working virtually. There were some teams that worked, like our alliance marketing team, and those are individuals who work with the tech companies that we have partnerships with, like Google or IBM. They had been a virtual team for 10 years. Yeah. And then I have a tax marketing team that are, much more traditional, and they all went into our New Jersey suburban office. Yeah. And work together every day of the week in person. And so,
and I want to get to that, and I'll do it a little bit later on, where I have some questions related to like building a culture and within the team, because I know there's some things that you'd mentioned that in some previous talks, and I'll make sure I clarify. And when we get there, there's something that I read today. It's a post on LinkedIn by the CMO of Zapier, Kieran Flanagan. I love your thoughts on this. I thought it was very intriguing, and I'm curious to know if you have any thoughts on this. So, and stay with me for a second here, because it's I'm trying to condense it as well, since it was quite a hefty post. But Kieran states the following: B2B is going to have its creator moment. We are moving into the era of personality-led growth. Today, 50 million people identify as influencers. Most of these are B2C, but we'll see the same trend play out in B2B. Why? Traditional brand marketing channels are being disrupted, and we see it in the cost of acquiring a customer, up 108% over the past 10 years. He mentions a number of things of what AI will do, right? AI chat is disrupting Google's blue links. AI will automate much of paid advertising, reducing it to a game of who spends more. Social platforms favor creators versus brands. Look at their incentives. The channels that are growing favor creators, not brands. We'll see a similar boom in B2B, where creators build an audience and monetize that audience by shipping products. It's the opposite of what happens today, where we'll build a product and look for an audience. AI will accelerate this because building software becomes easier for people. He goes on into sharing a number of things, but the whole concept of kind of like the building an audience and the influential type of leader and creator for B2B. I'm curious, have you come across this? And I know that in the professional service world and where you're at now, I'm curious to know, are there any initial thoughts on this?
So it's interesting perspective. I don't think that B2B influencer marketing is something that's brand new. I think that came to be when social media was, a huge trend, and everyone adopted that. I mean, you see lots of B2B influencers that are already, very well known and commonplace. Like you've got Adam Grant, he's a big B2B influencer. When you think about just all those microcosm spaces, like there are lots of marketing B2B influencers that I follow or have relationships with. And so to me, that isn't a Gen AI thing as much as it is or difference between B2C. It's as it is more just, how the world works now with social media. And I mean, what is interesting or could have a potential change is whether or not the trend of B2C influencers being like super famous and representing brands will transition over to B2B in the same way. Like a lot of brands, we, have a big golf sponsorship over the last 10 years. It's evolved as a program tremendously to support our values in the DEI space. We just partnered with Steph Curry and his underrated golf tour. So it's interesting to see, like, maybe that will be something that happens more where there's less big brand ambassadors that are like paid a lot of money to be a brand ambassador versus like more grassroots
niche,
you know,
micro,
like more meaningful influencers that are that really are authentic in the B2B space versus just like sticking your brand name on somebody's hat or shoulder.
right.
I haven't thought much about it. It's very interesting. But
Well,
yeah.
Related to this, Wall Street Journal article that was featuring you, you mentioned the concept of authentic marketing. And can you define, or can you share with us, for those not familiar with it, like what authentic marketing is for you, what that means?
I mean, look, this is the core of, I think, just being successful in life and as a brand. Like, you have to be authentic and credible. It brings you credibility in who you are. Otherwise, this day and age, I think, people see right through you. Just to continue in the sports analogy, or the sports line of thinking, like, we have been in the golf space for a really long time. And so we have relationships, knowledge, real credibility with a lot of the, players in that space. And so in order to, as well as with our brand ambassadors that are in support of our brand, in order to like really take that sponsorship to the next level and partner with someone like Steph Curry, he was most interested in the brand because of the longstanding relationships we've had and all of the knowledge and experience and things that we've done over the last 10 years. So it was about our authenticity, and it was even Mariah Stackhouse, who's an LPGA star, who recommended that we have that partnership and kind of gave us a boost of confidence with Steph to be able to make that something that was more formalized. But it wasn't like Steph was looking for somebody who was just paying money to put their name on his corporate effort or his his really purpose driven effort. So authenticity, I think, is at the core of everything that a brand as well as an individual needs to do.
And you mentioned brand ambassadors, you mentioned obviously Steph Curry and those types of branding opportunities. Are there particular authentic marketing strategies? I mean, this seems like a great example, but have they been very effective? I mean, is it you can't say it overall. I'm not sure, I don't want to blanket everything, but I'm curious in your case, from applying some of these strategies, are they effective, or are there other ways in which you can have this authentic marketing without those brand ambassadors, or are there other avenues?
I mean, authenticity will stretch to any marketing program or tactic that you do. You don't just have to have influencers at the level of LPGA players or Steph Curry. Like we
Mm.
actually have a marketing influencer program for KPMG subject matter experts. So we help them with their digital presence, with their digital visibility, with their LinkedIn posts, with their profile, with helping them get out into their microcosm of a marketplace and be an influencer in their space. So and they couldn't do that if they didn't have the the credibility, the expertise, the authenticity that they have in the area of knowledge that they've developed over decades of doing what they do. So yeah, I mean, authenticity and just the concept of influencers is applicable from big NBA or basketball stars all the way down to consultants who are just really truly influencers in their space.
I love that. So the thought leadership, like placing a spotlight on those thought leaders across a number of different niches within the services that you provide, that sounds like that is a great avenue to take as well. Does that
and it's really cost effective. It's one of the highest ROI marketing programs that we have.
Wow, that was my next question. For founders that are listening, I just came back from a like digital marketing conference, and there was a lot about influential marketing, right? But a lot of the things, so Lauren mentioned, Steph Curry and like brand ambassadors, and I'm sure those are fairly expensive, right? So like, what do you do when you don't have the resources for it? I would love to get your take on this too, but for my end, they're platforms, and I'm sure you guys have heard of this, Cameo. You can align your company brand, get a celebrity that's in line with whatever it is that you are building or that you're promoting, and for a fairly smaller price, you'll not only have access, but you can reach these celebrities. I don't know, we can revert back to this on the Q&A side, but like, I'm curious if other founders have used this before. Maybe personally, I've done it for like birthdays of like my best friends, right? Like have like a famous celebrity say happy birthday and all that stuff.
The
But
problem
anyways,
is
just
the
mentioning.
commercial ones are really expensive. So
Oh,
it's
the
not the
commercial
same
ones are
price
very
as a
expensive.
personal Cameo. Yeah. And you get what they give you. So like if most of the people who are like $300 for a 15-minute Cameo, if you use it for a 15-minute Cameo commercially, it's $3,000 to $5,000, and you just do not know. So most of their like booking fees, if you booked it directly through their agent to do something similar, would probably be $3 or $4 grand more, and then you can do retakes and have someone properly manage it.
Got it. So does it sound that it is a bit of a discount, or no, not really? Like
it is a discount, but it's $5 grand for 15 minutes, and you take what you get.
Okay, got it. Thank you for clarifying that.
Not that
okay.
I spend any time on it.
So I wanna jump in. There's a Forbes article where KPMG, they were featuring you, Lauren, and KPMG's 125th birthday, right? 125 years in operation. KPMG has been here for some time, and you talked about brand consistency, and this is something that you refer to, going back to the problem of when you have so many different products or services and divisions, how do you keep that brand consistent? So I'd love to learn from you. How do you, right? Like, that sounds like a really big challenge. How do you try and create a consistent brand, especially where I'm guessing there might be some regulatory hurdles as well within the industry? Anything you can share with us?
Yeah. Geez, I'm just thinking about where you guys are coming from, and like the scale is just so different in terms of
it's massive.
Like brand management and governance challenges that we have, and just to make the complex even more complicated, KPMG International is each country is actually a different member firm, a different legal entity because of the auditing purposes. So, but we are a global brand. So in order to manage that and move it forward or advance or make any changes to the brand is just an incredible feat of collaboration and a global influence. So it's not where you guys are. Just appreciate the simplicity of you make a decision and then you can go implement that decision. You don't have to talk to 300 countries around the world to decide how does everybody feel about our new tagline. So yeah, it's definitely lots of challenges around governance, but we manage things through templates. We manage things through an internal creative services team that does really high volume type of marketing, just execution and output. And they use our brand guidelines and are all trained. We have work of agencies and freelancers and contractors that we work with that we keep really close tabs on around brand governance. There's a naming process. Like everybody in firms like this want their own name, and so again you have to say no a lot, and there's guidelines to follow around what people can or can't do. I like to come from a place of yes. So if something is, and business enablement. So if something is just makes business sense, but it, doesn't necessarily have a small fine print in the brand guidelines, I'll say, let's do that. It makes sense and move forward so that we don't have a lot of bureaucratic red tape. But yeah, it is an ongoing challenge and everybody loves to meander from the brand. We just launched a new visual identity and brand messaging platform about 2 years ago. And like immediately what happens is you roll it out globally and then each global CMO wants to do their own thing and make their own kind of twist on it. And we call that brand meandering. So we're really trying around coordination and governance to not let that happen.
What a lot of I think we covered, just to highlight a little bit of this, but founders within our group are in different phases of their company journey, not just pre-seed or seed, but there's Series A, there's Series B, right? The much growing, faster growing teams. And what advice, but regardless of the phase, you are dealt with limited resources, right? When it comes to prioritizing for marketing initiatives or branding, any thoughts that come to mind of certain questions you should keep to your, you should ask yourself, or anything that you've come across that might be helpful?
I mean, the most important thing to remember for marketing is that marketing strategy should enable the business strategy. And like you could take lots of different paths and tactics with marketing and get really distracted. But I would make sure that you're incredibly aligned on what your metrics are, what your desired outcomes are, what you're trying to achieve with your leadership team, or with the CEO and the board, and really manage tightly to that, because otherwise you could spend a little here, a little there, and sprinkle dollars all over and not be able to see anything in result for that. The other challenge just inherently with marketing is measurement. So, you have to be really intentional, if it's not digital, about measuring and understanding the value that your marketing investment is producing. In a prior life, we used to call people that came to events and ask them, and it was an intermediary through a financial advisor, like, how was that event? Did you get any assets from it? Did you have what you thought was an incremental movement in positive client relationship value from that? Because all of it isn't seen in a system or measured in a system. And so I think the close relationship and just being really visible about your marketing strategy and what you're doing, so that you're not surprising anyone later on about how you spent your time or your resources.
And you mentioned that the best return on investment so far based on the cost was, it sounds, I don't know if that was it, but like that thought leadership, you know, placing a spotlight on the number of thought leaders within the organization and giving them a microphone for them to be able to continue sharing their lessons learned and their insights and their wisdom for those prospects, for those customers that, you know, are aware of those thought leaders and very much value that insight. So is that
Yeah.
correct? That's one of the routes?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We've grown that program from about 4 people to now 30 subject matter experts that we provide support to. And if I look at the investment in that versus investment in, you know, other media driven or, you know, higher cost event type of programs, it is definitely more bang for the buck.
And I would follow that up for founders with being an evangelist, right? Let's say it is a small team, but you are building something that is helping a certain niche, you know, be the evangelist for it. You know, come up with, bring in an audience, come up with conversations, share certain insights, you know, 5 steps to improve this and that, not just something that talks about your product, but something that's just as a whole insightful to that prospect, that they can take away with, and then they can slowly begin seeing you as that thought leader in that space. What are some of the most common mistakes you think marketers make, or you've seen made? What are some common mistakes?
The most common mistake is not caring or being focused on measurement. Like, everyone is in a resource constrained environment, and what people typically do, what I see marketers typically do, is plan a program, execute a program, give really high level vanity metrics of that program, and then move to the next program. And you will become just an order taker and have a very, you know, side seat in the table, and not be a you know, viewed as a strategic partner to the business if that's where you keep your, you know, your marketing department. So I've been incredibly focused on measurement and demonstrating the tangible value that marketing brings. And I was lucky enough to, when I came into the organization, there were a lot of tailwinds behind me because the firm had just kicked off, or was in the early stages of kicking off what we call a front office transformation, which at its simplest is implementing a new CRM system, but at its more strategic level is the connection between marketing and sales, and having much more visibility for all of the work and campaigns that marketing has running, and connecting it to last mile sales activities, which you know, a lot of those things were happening just in silos before, without the visibility or acknowledgement or teamwork between marketing and sales. So, and one of the big things that I've been focused on is now, because we have that full funnel view, is getting that attribution methodology correct, where people in the business and leaders will say, they're not going to question when you say, oh, marketing influenced pipeline. What does that mean? Like, we've agreed together what that means, or what marketing attributed leads means. And now marketers are actually looking back and saying, what did I do that actually drove marketing pipeline, and marketing pipeline that sales actually accepted? So I'm making marketers become much more analytical and backward looking, so that they're not just, you know, continually in this mode of like, let me get marketing tactics out, but I have no idea if something worked or it didn't work.
Lauren, thank you so much again for your time, for spending your time with us here and answering our questions. We really value it. We appreciate you so much.